And this one works very well. Again, it's in a neighborhood. We let them know we have a buyer. We just put one under contract, and we have another buyer that's interested. We got a phone call out off this. They already had an agent, which is fine, but we were able to move another property down the street that we were listing to that buyer. This is one of my coaching members in Florida. She did the same thing. She had about 1,300 in her community, sent this letter out. She got 2 listings from it and 2 buyers that she picked up from this. And that was all in 30 days after sending it out. It was a condo development that she sent it out to.
Hello everybody, welcome in to this week's episode of Ask the Experts. Generally we would actually wait to get started and let more people pour in. And Willie, real fast, I'm going to mute you while I'm talking, and then I'll mute myself while you're talking, etc. But we usually wait a little bit to let people pour in and give some more time for everyone to get in, but there's a lot of content today on a really important topic, so we're going to just go ahead and jump right into it a little bit early. So today's topic is geographic farming. Willie's presentation is going to have a ton of information. He's going to talk about multiple different ways, and one key way he's going to describe as much as possible on how to get different listings. But before he goes into it, what I'm going to do is talk about it from a digital marketing perspective. This is going to be really quick, 5-10 minutes tops. But when we're talking about geographic marketing, a lot of times people think mailers, people think a lot of the traditional marketing techniques that really work well still. And I just wanted to go in and show you a few tips and techniques if you're on the digital side of things on how to still utilize geographic marketing within that pay-per-click medium, within that digital marketing medium. So first, super quick note on digital marketing. If you're going to do PPC, pay-per-click marketing, personally, it's all about, well, not personally, but overall, it's all about getting the right message to the right customer at the right time. Right? So the right customer, that includes where your customer is located. That includes, are they ready to sell? That includes, so all of these different factors, depending on your market, how your market is doing, right? So there are a lot of different factors in what makes the right customer. And geographic, that is a key point. Now, a little side note while I'm on the slide, just a pro tip. For our industry, I almost always recommend, if you're looking for listings, to take a Google Ads approach or a search ads approach versus a social media ads approach, because you guarantee that you're getting people at the right time. So to break that down even further, if you're doing a Facebook ad, a pay-per-click Facebook ad, imagine you're the customer, you're scrolling. You're seeing all of your friends and family, and then out of nowhere, you see a post, hey, are you interested in selling your home? Get a free home quote. See what your home is worth, right? Let's say that's your advertisement. At that moment, you do not know for sure if that person is ready to sell their home. You can make your customer list, you can refine it so that you can try to optimize the chances that they're looking to sell their home. But I like search-based ads, so that's your Bing, your Google, because it guarantees timing from a pay-per-click perspective, right? So if someone is looking, if someone's typing in sell my home, how to sell my home, that is an indicator that at that moment they are considering selling their home, right? If you're getting clicks, it's important to get your name in front of people always. But that time indicator is pretty huge when you're going after listings. That's all I'll say about this slide. We do have a digital marketing Ask the Experts video where we go way more in depth to all of this stuff. And now for the meat and potatoes of my portion of this little presentation, how to actually do it in different pay-per-click methods. So the two main types I just talked about is your search-based stuff, so your Google ads, your Bing ads, and then your social media advertising, or paid advertising, your pay-per-click on social media. So a lot of people on Facebook notice that when you're marketing real estate sections, you can't target specific neighborhoods, right? You get radiuses. That's how Facebook pay-per-click works. So maybe you want to target a very specific neighborhood to coincide with one of these techniques that Willie's going to teach you, but you can't necessarily do that because you're getting this whole mile radius that includes 100 extra neighborhoods you're not interested in targeting at that moment. Well, there's a way around that in Facebook ads, and we can show you how in detail. I'll have a one sheet for you, so if you go ahead and message us or comment on this video if you're watching the re-recording, then I'm happy to get that information to you. But it's uploading a customer list rather than using their typical radius marketing, right? So that is the shortcut, that is the secret to using Facebook ads to target a community. All right, now search engine, paid advertising, that's a lot more straightforward. When you're actually setting up the ads campaign, you can type in specific cities, specific towns, specific communities, and it will actually let you do that. But you can take the customer list approach as well if you want a very narrow community. The last thing I'll say before I pass it on to the meat and potatoes here, before I pass it on to Mr. Miranda, I will mention that when you're doing pay-per-click advertising, coinciding with the traditional marketing techniques that you're going to do is a really great target. It's a great way to make sure that the consumer feels like you're the agent to go with, that you're all over the place. But simultaneously keep in mind that pay-per-click works off of supply and demand. So the more narrow your target demographic is, the more narrow your target audience is. I don't want to say demographic, especially with RESPA and all that stuff. But the fewer people you can advertise to, the more expensive it's going to be in front of them. So I'd keep that in mind. Do testing. Good digital marketing is all about analytics, test, retesting, all this stuff. And like I said, we go into way more detail about all of this in the Digital Marketing Ask the Experts presentation, available on our site or on YouTube. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Willie Miranda. So let me stop sharing my screen, allow him to share. And
okay, can you guys hear me okay? All right, well, thank you very much. And Nick, that was great stuff. I mean, today I'm going to talk a little bit more about, how do you actually set it? How do you really go after more of a traditional base geographic farm, which is still it still works, right? The return on investment is still very good. I don't think it is as good as it used to be, only because inventory is so low. So we are finding some of the results are not as lucrative, I guess, as they were in the past. But the reason for that is because the inventory is really low right now, and I think that a lot of agents kind of pulled back from doing some direct marketing this way. But the return on investment is still a 1, 2, 3x return, so it still makes sense to do it. So today what I want to go over with you is some traditional methods on it, but first really going over how do you start it. Nick, what I like what you brought to the table is that you have more of the digital component. If someone's into Facebook ad and paid leads, let's face it, that's going to drive in traffic as well. So the combination of the two, I think, is rock solid, right, to have that strategy. And we might even have a separate call on this to go a little deeper on some of the digital stuff after we do some of the more traditional stuff that I'm going to talk about today. Yeah. But, we always talk about going back to the basics, because the basics do work, and that's what we're going to be talking about today.
To your point, Willie, on the low inventory thing, it is tough right now to get deals, but that does not mean that you should avoid putting the money in and really marketing yourself, because right now people are a little afraid to sell their homes. I mean, not everybody, but getting your name in front of there, doing these things that Willie's going to talk about, is still important. Just because if you do work during the down season, when people are ready to sell again, you will reap those rewards.
Right. It's like more about building a foundation than anything in times like these.
All right, well, let's see if we can share the screen here. Trying to get it on here. Oh, here we go. Okay, so you should see the full screen there, correct? All right, so geographic farming for getting more listings. I mean, that's really what the whole focus is. And more so going into 2024 is going to be imperative that we're being proactive about getting listings. Yeah, you always get the referral from a friend or a family member, and that's fine. But as you know, those are becoming less and less because just not enough activity out there. So we're forced to go out there and find, you have your warm traffic and your hot traffic that you have going on with your COI, past customers, friends, but we need to go back after more colder traffic. And I always say, what really got me excited about geographic farming after seeing some results was that, I'd hate coming home every day and driving down a neighborhood near my home and seeing, another company sign up. And I would say, I can't believe those people listed. I wish I was able to get that. And my wife, she's always kind of puts me in my place when it needs to be. But she's like, well, think about it. She's like, they don't know who you are. You're the secret agent. And I said, you're right. I am the secret agent. Why would they list with me? They don't even know who I am. So in order to change that, we had to really get down into Geographic Farm, understand the principles behind it, find out what the content was, those type of things. And now I've taught it to several, probably over 100 plus agents that I've shared this with. And the ones that have stayed consistent with it, the ones that have been disciplined about doing it every month. Like, don't start a Geographic Farm to just be a one and done type of person. In other words, you're just going to send a postcard or a letter out one time and that's it. You're never going to stay top of mind with that. It needs to be done consistently and over time to be effective. And what did I say? It takes 7 or 8 times for someone to see you or see the image or the brand before they recognize Coca-Cola or they recognize, Audi or whatever that may be that they're looking at. Same thing with real estate. It's going to take 7 or 8 times for them to see you before they recognize if they need your services or not or who you actually are. So this is why I think that with Geographic Farm, if you do it correctly, I would rather see you start with a small sampling and then build your way up from there with profits that you make versus just doing a big mailing and only doing it once, if that makes sense. All right, so who is your farm, right? Target audience. Who's your farm going to be? I always say start off with where you live, right? Because that seems to be the best place, I would say, unless you live maybe in an area that's rural, or maybe you live in an area that maybe you don't want to be part of, and that's fine too. But the majority of the people that I work with, we're always looking to start in their neighborhood, in their area, because then people become familiar with them. And they want to work with a realtor that knows the local market, that's trustworthy, that's in the area. And that's why I say start there, and then you can always build out. You want to start off in your neighborhood, like I mentioned before, your surrounding areas. And people say, well, how many should I start? Like, what's the minimum? I would say if you're going to do geographic farming, what I found is that 250, even though that's still a low number, that's a good minimum to start with. That's a good sampling. When I test a postcard, when I send something out, before doing a big, because I'll do 19,000 postcards every quarter here. I've been doing it for years. And I just send my whole zip code. But I like to sample with 250 different messages so I can actually A, B, C test them and say, okay, which one did I get the greatest response from? Okay, this one works pretty good, has a great call to action. I'm now going to send that to 19,000 people, if that makes sense, right? So we're testing it, just like we do on social media. So 250 home minimum, if your budget allows for that. Factor in if you're going to be using, and I'll show you some different vendors that you can use, like Quantum Mail, the Quantum Digital, I should say. Postcards are like 80 cents, right? Jumbo postcards. They deliver it to the address that you want. You never even touch the card, and they send it for a little bit more than what you're paying for a stamp. Or you can go to letter style, maybe send out a newsletter or something like that, using a company called IT Direct Mail, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. You want to determine your average sales price in your neighborhood and what the turnover rate is. And the turnover rate is something that if you say 100 homes in your neighborhood and 5 sell, that's a 5% turnover rate. So you want to determine at least, we used to not go into a neighborhood unless it had a minimum of at least 6 or 7% turnover. But because of sales being down right now, you can't use that number or you won't sell anything, right? You won't want to do any neighborhood because a lot of those neighborhoods are under. So I would say a good rule of thumb now, if it's 2 or 3% turnover rate, it's still worth you sending out to that neighborhood, and you find out what your average sales price is so that you can actually see, okay, if 5 homes are selling or 10 homes are selling in an area, who's the players in that market? You want to know who the top agents are in our market. And you're going to find, because I get this all the time, I have agents tell me, oh, I'm not going to do that because, Knox Woods, Robin handles all that in there. She sells a ton in there, and, I'll never get anything in there, right? Now we run Robin's numbers and see that she only has maybe a 15% market share. Well, what about, the other 85% that's left? Let's go after that market share. But know who your competition is, and if someone has 50 or 60% market share, it is going to be tough breaking into it. Know that up front, and it might take you a little bit longer to get some of those sales. Russell Rhodes, a good friend of mine, he does a ton of geographic farming even today. #1 agent last year with Berkshire Hathaway. He was consistently in the top 10 for Keller Williams. But he said our minimum turnover rate required for a farm set is 5%. So for us to be interested in, say, a 1,500 home neighborhood, a minimum of 75 homes would have to need to list on an annual basis, right? So that kind of gives you just some numbers behind it. So he was at 5%, and that quote, that was a quote from a few years back. So 2 to 3% is what you're looking at now. What's your consistency, monthly, weekly, etc.? So you got to figure out, am I going to send postcards out weekly? Am I going to send them out monthly? Am I going to send them out quarterly? Whatever that may be, but that's another thing you need to determine. So that's #1, is going over these things so that you have a good idea of who your target market is. #2, get list. If you want to use every door direct mailing, you can. It's through the post office, right? The U.S. Post Office, where you can actually tie into an area or a sub area, and you can see what that carrier route is. And what they do is they send a postcard to every homeowner in that area. Just looking for an example for right now. Like here's a big jumbo postcard that we did, all right? And you'll see that it says postal customer, right, in small little mice print. And it went out to those people. And it just says resident customer. There's no name on there. It's not going to anyone. But it's going in every door direct, every mailbox in that little sub area. It's going to hit every door. So it's very cost effective. I think it costs you maybe 19, 20 cents a piece. And then the printing, but very, very cost effective to get those out. And that's through the U.S. Post Office, and you can look them up and actually dial in on a map on their website to see exactly what your area consists of when it comes to that. #2, your local MLS to get addresses from your farm area. We get it off our tax roll. So you can actually pull that, you can extract those names and names and addresses, and you can convert it into a CSV file in Excel. And then from there, you can use quantumdigital.com, you guys should check that out, to do a 250 household radius around your home. You'll have access to the list and the people in your neighborhood. So if you want to pull that list, you can do that. Or you can go to Quantum Digital and say, here's my address of my listing. Give me 250 homeowners around that area, and you want to mail postcards to them. So you can do that as well. But that's how you get your list, and that's how you get those mailers out. Now, what about content? I get that question all the time. Well, what do I send them? So I gave you a couple examples here of what we send out, and these are just a couple of things that you can use. Canva, I know a lot of people like to use Canva. It's very easy to change templates and work there. You can hire a VA, right, a virtual assistant to handle this stuff for you. If you have a marketing department at your brokerage, you can always tap into them. And I'm sure future-wise, Nick, we'll probably have some things through you as well, correct?
Yeah, so we actually already have a handful of different newsletters. We have even monthly newsletter templates available for any MyState member. And while prompted, I also wanted to mention you can go, for the last slide, you can also utilize a title company connection. Oftentimes they will be able to get you some farm lists as well. If you're a good agent, they'll even pay for it because they want to keep your business. If you're a new agent, you might have to throw them a couple bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. So designing your content, but you got to make sure it's compliant too. That was my my assistant put that in there because she's our compliance officer when it comes to a lot of mailings that we send. Just making sure not intended to solicit properties currently for sale. Please disregard if your home is listed, right? Like you want to have that in there because there's a lot of agents that get jealous when you're marketing and farming their areas, and they become the agent police, and they're the ones that are really reporting it. It's not the consumer, it's usually other agents. But so designing it, I just gave you some different options there that you can design it. So here's a couple examples. Here's one my wife sent out on a listing that she just sold here a few weeks back. And basically very basic, right? Again, this is more of a branding tool. We don't expect a lot of people to raise their hand and just call you. It's more of a branding tool to say, hey, we just sold this in your neighborhood. Here's the information. It got 21,000 over ask, and we sold it in 4 days. Right? You guys are probably getting sick of seeing that stuff because you see that all the time. But to the consumer, people are nosy. They want to know three things, and we've done surveys on this. They want to know, first and foremost, how much their home is worth. Right? They always want to know and get updated values with that. Number two, they want to know what their neighbor sold for. Right? Very nosy, and they want to know, well, what did Betty and Joe over there sell their home for? And sometimes it's different than what Betty and Joe said, right? So they want to see that information. And then the third piece is they want to know local information. What's going on, what parades are going on, what fundraisers are going on, those type of things, what events are going on. People like to hold on to those. So when you're thinking about, and I'm going to talk about there in a minute, a newsletter, you want to make sure you take those three things in consideration. All right, so that is a postcard. Here, another postcard was one, I won the Realtor of the Year last year for our local chapter out of 4,000 agents. And I wanted to get that out to my farm area and let people know. So there's a picture of my wife and I receiving the award, and just basically thanking them for allowing me to serve them. And then out of there, I put a little call to action: find out what your Clifton Park home is worth. Please visit, and I gave them a website to go to. They go on that website, they read the information, they fill it out, and then we have our inside sales or myself call them to kind of get their information and see whether or not they're looking to sell in the next 3 to 6 months, right? And then here's some updated values of what's going on in the community. Another one, this is a tester. Remember I said I test things. So I wanted to test this headline. Not happy? Fire me, right? Homes are selling fast, and we told them the number. I tell them who I am. If you're not happy, fire me. I think you'll be happy. We have a no-hassle listing, flexible commissions, sell it yourself, pay nothing. Cancel at any time, found your own buyer and need help, we can help, right? We could take it from contract to close. So this did okay. We did get a couple people raise their hand, and we got some listings on this. So, all right, that's a good one, right? So we keep that one and share that with you. I threw the Realtor of the Year, which, you know what, people, and I'm going to share with you guys here what sellers want. Let me just see if it'll pop up on the screen if I share it. Do you guys see a different screen now, a Word doc?
No, we do not.
No. Okay, so I'm going to stop share, and I'm just going to put it right back on again. I want to give you guys an idea. What do sellers want when selecting an agent for their home? And that was a survey that went out, and it was actually a Dave Ramsey survey that went out to over 1,000 sellers. And here was the results. I'm going to share the results with you, what they really care about. Number one, trustworthiness. 77% said they wanted an agent that was trustworthy when selling their home. Number two, knowledgeable about the real estate market, right? We just talked about that, being able to do geographic farming, educating people on what's going on in the market, what's going on with interest rate, how does it impact their equity in their home. Let's face it, their home is their biggest asset that they own. They want to know what's going on with that. Listens to my wants and needs, right? You don't want to talk over your people. You want to listen more than you talk, right? 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen more than you talk, and take down great notes. Make sure you have an interest and that you do want to hear what they're saying, right? Hopefully we do, or in your wrong business. Has my best interest in mind, responsive, easy to reach, negotiating skills, has a good reputation, and the list goes on and on, right? But, as agents sometimes, like I just said, years of experience or top 10% or Realtor of the Year, that's probably on the bottom of the list. They don't really care about that. What they do care about is these things here. So you want to give them that. You want to make sure that you're giving them knowledge about the real estate market, and you want to give them examples of testimonials where their needs and wants were listened to, where their best interest was in mind, and that their negotiating skills, like selling a house for more than ask. It's not really that much negotiating to do on a seller's market, but there is a technique to that, right? There's definitely a technique to that. So I wanted to share that those outcomes with you, because I think it's important when we're getting our message out there that it's not all about me, and what's in it for me is really what the consumer is thinking, right? I always heard that every seller out there is tuned into the same radio station, and it's WIIFM. What's in it for me? And it is true, right? So that's one postcard. Here's another postcard that did very well for us. We continue to put this out there, and basically we threw a couple solds of what we did, and then the blocked ad there. Find out what your Clifton Park home is worth, and there's a call to action. They can call me or go to the website. Your home can be next. Here's why now is the best time to sell. We went low inventory, less competition, etc. So that went out, and it looks like this, same postcard, right? And it went out every door direct mailing, and it hit every mailbox in those areas, and it performed very well. Here's our newsletter, right? So we've had a lot of different combinations of this newsletter. I think the newsletter, if I had to get rid of all my other marketing, the newsletter would be the last one I'd get rid of. And the reason for that is because we have a section here, What's Up with Willie? Talks about what's going on in the market, right? This is where you build your trust, right? People do business who they know, like, and trust. This is how you do that. You build your trust by giving them great information. They get to like you because they get to see you as a person. And they get to know you because now every month or every quarter, they're getting something from you. I'm talking about the market. I'm talking about my kids. I'm talking about vacations. I'm talking about whatever it is that is personal. I'm going to put that in there so it's not a boring piece. You see there in the middle, my wife, we do a recipe every month where she loves to cook, and she shares some recipes, some family recipes. And she'll say, hey, Willie really loves this, or my daughter Julie loves that. And she goes over that, and every month she takes a different picture of what she made. So people really enjoy that. And quick story, when we were doing the trade a can for a cone event, where we actually bring an ice cream truck and go through the neighborhood and give everyone free ice cream as long as they give us canned goods for the local food pantry, which, by the way, is very successful. We just did 2 in Florida last month. Very, very successful. One agent got 2 listings and a buyer from it within a week, and then the other one only had 1 listing that came from it, but she knows she met like 100 people in her neighborhood, and they just moved there, so it's great. But with this can for a cone, when I was driving through that neighborhood, people would come out, and they were giving us canned goods. They knew who my wife was, right? She was driving the truck, and I'm like, oh, is that Sherry? Yeah. They didn't even want to talk to me. They want to go talk to her and tell her how great the, cookie pizza was, or the crock pot recipe, or whatever it may be. And there's my wife. I'm like, come on, move the truck. Let's go. Like, she's talking to people because they know her from the newsletter, right? So you become, 3 things happen when you do a newsletter, right? This is your own publication. You're your own author on this. So the 3 things that come from it, and Dan Kennedy taught me this years ago, it produces expert status. So you're the expert. You're the authority, and you're the celebrity, right? And people want to be part of your tribe. And when they're getting that newsletter, it's going out to that small community. Now they become part of your tribe, and they look to you for being the hub for business, right? So we go over some market updates. We go over our charity. We go over some solds, and then we give them access to a free book. What every person needs to know about selling a home in a capital district, written by me. I have another book that we just did for Florida, and it's How to Get the Most Money When Selling Your Florida Home. There it is. Right? It's a real book, easy to read. But I'm giving this out as what we call the bait. And I know, Nick, you could do a ton of that stuff with social media, actually building a landing page and driving people to that, just like you would a postcard or anything else, because people want that information. And people are going to click on it, and we could send we do have a landing page already for it, where they go on it and they get a PDF copy right away. We follow up with a phone call. If they're a viable and great client that we feel we're going to be able to do business with in the near future, then we send them a physical hard copy book. But if not, they're getting that PDF copy right away, and we're getting conversations. But that's another great way to, again, get engagement and get people to come to you. So the newsletter works very well, and we send that out through a company called the itdirectmail.net. And you guys could check that out, and it's basically a nice envelope, yellow, hang on one second. It's in a nice yellow envelope like this. So it's handwritten font, it's got a real live stamp, and it goes with my return on there. See that? So we're sending that out. I don't know if this is a newsletter, I send different things out. But this is, yes, the newsletter for this past month. Again, what's up with Willie's on it, and then we open it up, and it's got the book offer, like I showed you guys already, and then on there it's got a bunch of stats and different things of what's going on there, right? So that goes out in that letter, it gets open, and it's a great geographic farm piece to send out. Another piece, remember I told you guys that they want to know what their home is worth. So the home evaluation report is another great piece to send out. This is attached with an RPR that goes with it. So an RPR is a cost market analysis report that RPR puts out. If you don't have RPR, you can always do your own. And we attach the letter to it saying that, I live here in the neighborhood. I get a question all the time, how's the market? And I put together this easy, report for you to take a look at of what your computer-generated estimate values of your home. Obviously, if you'd like to get a more in-depth analysis of your home, consider selling your home, give me a call, right? Don't hesitate to call me or text me, and I can give you a better evaluation. So that's a great letter. This letter here, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this. I have a buyer letter. A lot of us have buyers. A lot of us have buyers we can't find homes for. And a lot of agents typically just wait on the MLS for a home. They wait on the MLS, and then they compete against hundreds of realtors that are waiting to do the same thing. You need to be proactive, and the way you do that is by figuring out where's your buyers want to live. It's a certain community or a certain neighborhood or a certain street. You could send a letter like this to that street, and I guarantee you will get phone calls from it if the people obviously are looking to sell. And this one works very well. Again, it's in a neighborhood. We let them know we have a buyer. We just put one under contract, and we have another buyer that's interested. We got a phone call off this. They already had an agent, which is fine, but we were able to move another property down the street that we were listing to that buyer. This is one of my coaching members in Florida. She did the same thing. She had about 1,300 in her community, sent this letter out. She got 2 listings from it and 2 buyers that she picked up from this. And that was all in 30 days after sending it out. It was a condo development that she sent it out to. Here's one for $1 million listings. It works in a luxury market too. I hear that. Well, I'm in a luxury market, so we're different. No, you're not. You're not different. You're dealing with people every day, just like we are. They put their pants on the way and take them off the way everyone else does. This letter works also. So we had sold a $1,1375 listing, and we had another buyer that was interested in buying. So we went ahead and sent his letter out to over 800 homes. I ended up getting 3 people. We sold one to the buyer that we had. We listed the other one, and then the other one was just the guy was out of whack with what he wanted, and we never listed it, and I think even today he never even sold. So this letter works very well. Every door direct mailing. People want to know what their neighbors sold for. There's an example of that. A lot of the homes in that neighborhood that we sold, we can now say all of these homes that we sold. No one sells more homes than Willie. But let's say you didn't sell all these homes in a neighborhood, right? And you say, well, I just started a year ago. I don't have that. You can always just say, here are all the homes that sold in that neighborhood, and you want to make sure your disclosure on the bottom shows that information was provided from your multiple listing like it does on this one here, right? So that works very well. Every door direct mailing, this is from one of my agents, Brenda Mayette. She has her hi neighbors, Happy New Year, goes through a little background on her, what her predictions are for the new year, and then her contact information, and then she puts some market data on there. Brenda, this year, she has listed more homes than any year in the past, and she basically credits her flyer that goes out, and she doesn't do it every month. She does it 6 times a year, so every other month she sends this out, and she gets a lot of great feedback, and she's picked up a lot of listings. And in her neighborhood there, she shows she had 15 closed. See that? Year over year, 15 closed. The next agent had 9, the next agent 8, 6.5, 6, 5. But she sold more than, no one else sells more homes than Brenda. So good thing there. All right, so number 4, and if you have questions, type them in the chat. We'll definitely answer any questions for you here at the end. I'll push through some of this stuff here. Every door direct mailing we talked about, quantumdigital.com, and an itdirectmail.net. Those are the 3 vendors that we use. I'm sure there's a ton of them out there, but those are the 3 that we use for getting mail content out to our farm. Follow-up marketing calendar. We do have a yearly marketing calendar that we have. We select the months that we want to mail certain things out and decide on the content and event. So like in December, we send out calendars. In August, we don't send out anything because we found that in August, the readership was very low over the year. So we just cut out August and we do a little bit more in the spring market, maybe double it up one month. But you decide when you want to, get your mailings out there. You decide what it should be on that calendar. All right. So that's my spiel on doing Geographic Farm and getting that out. And I think that it's something that a lot of agents need to be doing more of it. And I had a question come up the other day from a group of people that we're doing this presentation with and doing separate calls with the whole group. And the one guy just said, I just don't have the budget to do it. Doesn't have the budget. So I said to him, I said, well, sometimes, in business, I know when I started, I was always like against credit cards or using credit cards because that represents what? Bad debt, right? People say bad debt. Credit cards are bad. But when it came to my business, I used credit to my advantage, used other people's money to my advantage so that I can get the mailings out. I could do it consistently. And then the sales started coming in and then I would pay the credit card off. A lot of times I'd pay it off within 30 days, so there's no interest. But even if I did accumulate interest, it's still a write-off to me because I'm using it towards the business. And I'm not telling you to get into credit card debt. I'm just saying that you need to invest back in your business. If you had a pizza place that you opened up, right, you'd have to buy the equipment, the stoves, the countertops, the chairs, the tables. You'd have to buy all the product to make the pizzas. And you'd be into it $50,000 before you made a penny on it. And real estate's totally different, right? We can get our licenses and people think that the phone's just going to ring, and that's not the case. So you have to allocate some money towards investing. Rule of thumb, 10%, whatever you want to make, should be going back in marketing. So if you want to make $100,000 in a year selling real estate, know that you got to invest 10 grand back in. Not all at once. You can take it out of each commission check, but initially you need that start to go, and you got to get marketing going to make that money. And then every check you get, 10%, just put in a marketing account. If you want to make $200,000, it's $20,000, etc. Right? Because no one's coming for it. You got to do it yourself, and that's something that we definitely recommend for people that want to get started. And when I look at the return on investment on some of these, quick story on when I first did it in my neighborhood, I didn't want to compete with agents in my neighborhood. There was one agent that lived in my neighborhood that worked for me. And her name was Andrea. And she goes, no, I want to market my neighborhood. I said, no, that's a problem. I'm not going to compete with you. She did one mailing, didn't get any responses, stopped doing it. So in the meantime, as my wife and I would walk around the neighborhood, guess what? Coldwell Banker sign, Berkshire Hathaway sign, Remax sign. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. So she ended up getting out of the business. She didn't make it. And I was walking my wife, and she said, well, why don't you do it? Right? No one else is doing it in the neighborhood. Just do it. So we did. It was July. I forgot the year now, but we started in July. And I built a case study. And I said, okay, in the month of July, I'm going to start for 12 months. I'm going to dedicate myself to getting something in the mail, minimum once a month. And in the beginning, I was doing 2 and 3 times a month just to get my name out there. And I would do a newsletter. I would do it. And then as we would get listings, we would do open houses, right? We'd have 20 signs in the neighborhood. We'd send out flyers. We'd invite sellers to come to the open house. Who better to pick your neighbor than you or someone that lives in a neighborhood? And people loved it. And people would come with the flyers to the open house. and come in. They still do when we do it. We still invite neighbors to our open houses. And my point on that is that over the course of that year, we spent just over I was thinking it was like $7,100 in mailings that we sent to that one neighborhood. Now, granted, that neighborhood was it still is only about 323 people in that neighborhood. But I had made $122,000 in commissions. Pretty good investment, right? But if I didn't invest that $7,000, I would have never made the 122, if that makes sense. And to date, I've probably sold close to 100 homes in that neighborhood, and we still get business from it. I only mail out to that neighborhood now quarterly, but my point is that I'm not really in personal production right now. So I'm not. If I was in personal production, I'd be hitting every month. But now it's kind of more on repeat and referral business, and then I'll send out a quarterly newsletter just to keep things alive in that neighborhood, and I still get business from it. So I know that was a lot to take in, but the point is that you have to invest. You got to start somewhere, and Geographic Farm is a great place to do it. If you can't afford mailings and do that, then you reach out to Nick and Bruce, and I'm sure they could help you on the digital side where you could do pay-per-click ads to a certain radius, or geo farming that you want to do that way, getting your message out, and I'm sure you'll get some traction from that as well.
Yeah. So real fast, Bruce, Willie, an audience member asked to see page 4 again.
Yeah.
And while you're pulling that up, if you
Page 4 of the newsletter.
Slideshow.
Based on context, Deborah, let us know if we're speaking appropriately here. But I was thinking number 4 out of number the
of the 5 of the 5, number 4 on the slides, I think.
So while he's pulling that up, one thing that I'll say is yes, pay-per-click digital marketing is going to be a bit more inexpensive, but something that Willie mentioned is key. In this industry, it's all about trust. You need to be in front of people many different times. So in all reality, using both at the same time is probably your most effective combination, because then you're getting in front of them in the mail, establishing that you are the professional, the authority. You're also all over their pages. If you use display ads in Google Ads, for example, you'll show up when they're on a news website, right? So there are a lot of different ways and combinations of these tactics that will help you build authority. Yes, pay-per-click is overall going to be more inexpensive. It's going to cost less, but that doesn't mean that any of this should be discounted. This is all really important stuff. And you heard Willie's ROI. I mean, if you could give me $1 and I'd tell you that I'd give you 70 in return tomorrow,
Right.
I mean, you're going to do that.
I'll be giving you a lot of dollars, Nick.
Yeah.
The other thing is that this stuff has shelf life, right? These have shelf life. And you can ask my assistant, and she's not, obviously in the building, right? Bring her up and just kind of put her on the spot. But we'll go to these listing appointments, and these people have folders, a folder of all these newsletters and postcards in there. They don't throw them away. Why they don't throw them away? Because they want the data, they want the information, because they know they're selling. And they keep it. So it has shelf life. You don't get that a lot of times in social media. They're scrolling through, and once they scroll, they're on to the next thing, and then they forget. This, they're getting in physical mailbox. They're actually opening it. And if there's an interest, there's going to be shelf life. And that's why I think it's so effective versus, say, social media. But to Nick's point, I think that's a kind of the 1-2 punch, having both sides that you can do to make sure that you're getting them social media, and then you're getting them also in their mailbox, so that you're in front of them at all times.
And you make a really great point that it's actually a little of a subtopic here, but it's great to mention. Proper digital marketing, the advertisement should never be the end goal, right? You should take them to a landing page where you're either trying to collect their information and follow up in a different way. Like if you are just running the ads and hoping that that'll do something for you, in digital marketing, it's a little brute, but we often refer the customers to fish. People's attention span on the internet is 3 seconds to 10 seconds. So if you can't build a funnel, build a process that allows you to engage with that person, then you're going to have a tough time converting bigger picture. Um, so we've done full-blown Ask the Experts on this before. So if you are interested in learning more about building a digital marketing pipeline, I would advise you to go there. It's an hour of content or more. So, all right. Willie, any?
Well, if we have questions, now would be a great time. If not, I'm sure the replay will be going out to you. And if you have any questions, be more than happy to assist for sure.
Willie, any ideas on what you'd like to speak on next month?
I think there's been a lot of questions regarding this Burnett Sitzer case with NAR and what's going on there. And the truth be told is that I think that no one really knows what's going to happen, right? It's getting appealed. Yes, NAR was found liable, but it's being appealed, and now it's going to be put in front of judges, not jurors, and that's going to hopefully be a game changer because you're putting it in front of judges that understand more of some of the business concepts and things that and they're going to take more time with it. So I'm getting a lot of questions with that, but the buyer process, and we talked about how to negotiate, how to do a better presentation. We've done some of those calls already. I think that you're starting to see that buyer agencies is going to be here to stay. So the better we are about getting buyer agencies signed and able to object to some of these objections that we get on signing them, I think the more comfortable you'll be moving forward on it. So I'd like to see some stuff in the future on, starting to go through that buyer presentation once again and really honing in on your skills. Because if you show people your value, they're going to sign with you. And that's what it comes down to, right? Cost, which is the commissions here we're talking about, is only an issue in the absence of value. But if you can provide that value and why they should be using you, your negotiating skills, what you're going to do for them, then they're okay. And being able to pay that, okay? Not in every case. I mean, you're going to have first-time home buyers that just can't afford it, and lenders don't allow seller concessions to be put in there for realtor fees. But that might be changing too. I know there's some talk about, how can buyers finance some of these costs. So I'd like to see some more stuff on that. And I think the other thing I may look to do is about email. And about building an email list and the importance of a weekly email and what those things should be and the components of that. So we're working on some stuff on this now that's been working very good. Like, I don't tell you this stuff just to tell you this stuff. I tell you this stuff because we're working it and we have results behind it. And then once we have something that's good, then I share it, right? I don't go on there and say, oh, you guys should do this, should do that, be a hypocrite. And then, I did one mailing, right, and got no results from it. Like, I'll tell you if something worked and I'll tell you what didn't work. But email marketing, and this is great on your budgets, it doesn't really cost you that much to do it. But if you want to generate more leads, warm traffic, you should be collecting email addresses of everyone that you know, any acquaintance you know, and you should be sending them an email every week. Market updates, buyer tips, seller tips, interview a vendor, educate. And the more you educate your list on a consistent basis, the busier you're going to get because you're going to be top of mind. And they wouldn't even think about listing or buying from anyone else but you because you've been so good about giving them an education. And it doesn't have to be long, 3-4 minute videos that you're putting out there makes a big difference. So one of those two topics, Nick, I'll definitely want to do. I'd be interested to see if, a survey or something that, looking at those two, what people would be most interested about. So I know, that's something that, definitely send me an email, wmiranda@mrgteam.com, and I'd be more than happy to take those surveys in and see and build it around that.
Yeah, and we'll run some polls on our end as well and get it out to our media base. For everyone who is watching post the event or watching the live stream on one of the other platforms, just go ahead and send us a message or send Willie a message, right? To his point, we bring Willie on because he is an expert. He's been in this business for a long time. He's been very successful. So just to double down on what he mentioned, he is not just blowing smoke here. So thank you guys for your time. Willie, I'm curious your opinion. Next week, the National NAR conference in Anaheim. Do you think they're not going to say anything about all of this because the appeal hasn't happened? They're just going
No,
to keep.
they're definitely going to be saying it. They're definitely going to have a breakout session talking about it. They will probably have their attorneys coming up and talking about it as well, because there is a lot of buzz and a lot of concern from a lot of real estate agents right now. I just left a annual membership meeting this morning before our call, and I had them move me to the beginning because you saw that Realtor of the Year that I won last year. Well, I had to pass the torch and speak, bringing in a new one for 2023. So we usually do it at the end, and I said I had this call today, so you got to move me to the front. And they said that's okay because we have legal coming in because there's so many people interested. And it was a record attendance today with our annual membership meeting here locally out of 4,000 agents because of this case. And people are concerned. So I definitely know that NAR will have something for sure.
All right. So that'll definitely be an interesting update, and I'm looking forward to NAR's official statement on all of this. Just because that'll help give some direction. I know a lot of people are confused right now, but the best advice from my perspective, and I'm curious, Willie agrees, is just to put your head down and keep on moving on. Keep
Yeah,
on
it's business as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, business as usual. I had a lot of people freak out. Am I going to get my commission next month? And I had a listing actually call me, a listing, and say, hey, based on this case, you're going to reduce my commission now? And I'm like, no, nothing's changed. Everything's the same right now. And now we're in appeals. So this could be another 2-3 years before anything is made of it. So business as usual, control the controllables, right? Which is you putting your head down and getting to work. Because 2024 is going to be a great year and some great predictions on interest rates coming down. You want to get a piece of that. And if you're wrapped up into the fear of what's happening in this case, unfortunately, you're going to be out of the game.
Yeah, don't let fear paralyze you.
Yeah.
I mean, fear and stress, they're very similar. Part of the reason why I've developed the skill sets that I have is because I'm the type of person where when something difficult confronts me, I can't stop working until it's done, right? Take on that approach with fear. Let this be a time, let all of the agents who are afraid get out of the business. Take their business, right? Steal the customers they would have gotten.
I agree, because they're coming after you, so you got to defend yourself.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Willie, for your time.
Thank you.
And I hope everyone has a great day. Please go ahead and email us, nick@nystatemls.com or Willie.
Yeah, wmiranda@mrgteam.com.
If you have any last minute questions, comments, concerns. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. See you next month.